Good morning. Welcome to the Uncommon Truth and journeying with us as we pursue purpose and the principles of performance that empower each of us to live our ideal form of life. Today, Bob and I are going to provide an update to our viewers and answer the following questions. What is the Uncommon Truth really about? We just want to share our purpose, vision, and mission for the Uncommon Truth. Two, Bob and I are going to share our stories, give a little bit more detail about how we got to this place, this journey with the Uncommon Truth. Thirdly, we're going to share what we feel the key questions are to ask, to seek the answers to, that are really going to empower us and people in the pursuit of their unique purpose, and how we can live by principles of performance. We all want to perform in life and achieve the success in that ideal form of life that we desire. And lastly, let's discuss what is an ideal form of life and how do we really live it? That's really the journey we're all on. We're all, every day, writing our story. Every day is a blank sheet of paper. So I want to thank you as we journey today in providing you with an update on the Uncommon Truth. So Bob, we've had a lot of fun here over the last several weeks, and I think today is going to be a great time as we just share with our viewers and our friends where we've come from and where we're going. And so what do you think the Uncommon Truth is really about? And what do you feel it brings for you in life?
Morning, Heath. I'm enjoying where you are. I think you're in the middle of the wilderness. Gorgeous out there. Nicely done, my friend. Getting away from it all. I just had a conversation with a young person about 2 weeks ago, and I asked them what they thought their superpower was, what they thought their best skills were. And there was a pause after that question was asked, and they said, "I don't know." And in the conversation, the person had described several of their deficiencies, several of the things that they were doing wrong. They could accurately describe, in my estimation, many things that they weren't good at. But when asked the question, what are you really good at? The answer was, I'm not sure, I don't know. That's what the Uncommon Truth is all about, is uncovering the person's skills, uncovering the person's identity, and helping that person determine what their purpose is, determine why they're here on planet Earth and what they should be doing at this stage of their life. So I'm excited to spend some time with you today, my friend. There's so many people out there that can give you a giant list of what they do wrong, what they're not good at. But when it comes down to what they should be doing, where they should be going, it's cloudy. They're unclear. And the Uncommon Truth helps them uncover that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. As we've talked about, and I say at the beginning of every episode that we record, right? We are really about helping people pursue their purpose. And how do you get that mosquito? Sorry, it's just driving me crazy here. I'm out in the wilderness. I'm loving every second of it. But one thing I don't like is mosquitoes. They love my sweet blood, being a type 1 diabetic. So this is going to be fun. It shows right there how easy it is to get someone to squirrel. So anyways, that's really what life is, though. That in itself is an acronym that not an acronym, it's a scenario that how easily we get distracted off of our purpose, right? It's so easy to lose that. And what makes it easy is when we don't have those clear principles, or some people would call it laws or rules, that guide us. They give us our performance. You know, you've heard me talk about rituals and how important having routines are to really empower you to live the life that we want. And I think I've just come to such an awareness that living our ideal form of life and pursuing our purpose is a journey. And
Well, it is a journey. Heath, let me just back you up on that. It is a journey, but it also might be several journeys, because I've known you for almost 30 years now, my friend. And you've gone through several transitions in your business career, in your personal career. I remember that when you became a diabetic, that dramatically altered almost everything you did. When you went from being a policeman to an entrepreneur, that altered your purpose. That altered almost everything you did. When you, your birth of your child, that massively changed and transformed your life as a father as well. So many times you've had, as you know, on your journey, you've pivoted, you've changed direction, you've recreated yourself. And this is what we're doing too, is we're helping people that are in transition. A lot of people go through forced transitions like divorce or illness or, you know, even moving to other countries or other cities can be very, very put them in different situations. So we're here to help people recreate where they are, their current reality, understand that clearly, and help them move forward.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. That's really brings a lot of simple clarity to it. How do we transform? How do we predict our future? We create it. And that's the journey we're on. Realizing that we are all a choice every moment of every day to control our mindset, to control our will and our emotion so we can actually move forward according to the principles that we've set out so that we can get a predictable outcome. So maybe that's a great segue, Bob. I'd like you to start by, let's just share with our viewers your story. And then we'll go back into mine a little bit and let us know how you've become the man you've become and what brought you here to us being able to have this great opportunity of helping discover the uncommon truth about life.
Thanks, Heath. I can't believe where I live. Like, I live in North Vancouver. Vancouver is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. I've traveled around the world and I haven't been everywhere, of course, but when I drive across the Second Narrows Bridge and I see the mountains and I look at where I live, I cannot believe that I live there. And a lot of that has to do with the way I was raised and where I've lived. So my dad was a hard rock miner. And for those of you that don't know what a hard rock miner is, he was a guy that went 3,000 feet into the earth each and every day to dig out minerals to make products that were sold across the world. So he did that for 30 years. And every day that I would watch him come home and I would be amazed at his commitment and dedication to that kind of a job. So I learned a lot. We always lived in small towns. So I went from small town to university, college first, running from the small town atmosphere really, and went on to college, then university. And I found myself in my mid-20s working in an organization with over 100 employees, and the organization was growing like crazy, and I kept getting promoted. They kept promoting me because they saw something in me. And so I went from like a junior leader all the way up to senior manager. I found myself in charge of 16 different units of operation with over 100 employees. I think a budget around $8 million at the time. And I was leading people. I was leading groups, leading teams, leading committees, leading people, and didn't know much about it, had never been trained in that. But I found that the biggest joy in my job, and that's where my purpose came from, was to work with the other managers to help them become better at leading their people. And so the biggest joy was helping leaders turn into better leaders. And that spawned, I had a big transition in my life at that point in time, around 30 years old. And I started my own business in leadership development. And today I find myself in charge of Eclipse Leadership Institute. And we're just launching Eclipse College, which is will be a leadership development college that will be online and face-to-face here in British Columbia. Very excited about that.
That's amazing. I know your journey is, we've known each other for over 25 years. And one of the things that I have just grown to love so much, I always used to joke about it, we call it Bob's tricks. And it's really your mindset and the way that you're able to take almost any circumstance and turn it into a real positive win-win situation. Share with some of the people, some of the things that you have overcome and some of the the challenges in life, and that how they have actually helped form the great superpowers, as you called it earlier, in Bob Embry.
You know what I found is every decade for me, and it probably isn't exactly decade to decade, but it seems to me like that in my head. In my 20s, I had a series of challenges, my 30s, my 40s, and my 50s. And as I look forward in my 60s, I see another series of challenges ahead of myself. But in my 20s, it was the massive challenge. I decided to get married very early at 23 years of age. That was a huge challenge for a person that didn't understand women, didn't understand the obligations and responsibilities of marriage, and then had 2 children right off the bat. So a young man trying to build a career, trying to manage his marriage and try to manage the children, all at 23, 24, and 25 years old was a massive challenge for me, which I think I probably fumbled very, very badly. So I think on the score level, that was not a good score. In my 30s, it was starting a business, ending the marriage. I got an opportunity to end the marriage, and fell in love again. And at the end of my 30s, I had another child, so I found myself father of 3. So big challenges there. Very different mentality, very different control of my emotions by my 30s, and control of my intellectual ability had risen dramatically during that next 10 years as well. Although all the hard lessons, again, more business change, a number of different business ventures, and each one of them bringing a series of challenges, and I would say failures too. I would say that things that didn't work out very well. But again, like you just mentioned, my friend, it's about learning the lessons that we're given, right? So I took most of the failures and managed to turn them into lessons for myself, and hopefully not to repeat, but just to build on the knowledge and some of the successes I've had since then.
Well, we've talked a lot. I think you've described it well, is that really challenges are the wrapping around every opportunity we face in life. I haven't found it to be an untrue statement that every opportunity is wrapped in challenge. And that's where our character is built. Would you not agree, Bob?
Yeah, that's right. I think there's well over 160 different character traits, and things like courage and commitment and integrity and dedication. And I honestly believe those character skills are in every person. But as we live our lives, we get an opportunity to build them to whatever levels we want to build them at. And when you're tested, when you're in trial, in business or in relationships or whatever, in health challenges as well, it gives you an opportunity to build your character. I watched my mom. My mom's 89 years old. She's got osteoporosis, and she's still very independent, living on her own. But watching her as she goes through the day in pain because of the osteoporosis, but handling it with grace and handling it with character is a tremendous inspiration to me, to on the health side of things, on the physical side of things, to see how someone could take a trial like that and kind of turn it into grace as she moves through her life.
So something we've also discussed before, how have the principles or the laws of focus and proximity, so focus being, the things that we focus on, we feel, find, grow, ultimately it becomes. The proximity being the input that we have in our life that we choose to surround ourselves with. That can be books, it can be teachers, but mostly it's people. How important is that focus through those different seasons, and the proximity of the people you've had in your life at those different times through the challenges and those opportunities that we were talking about in each decade?
Well, let's talk about focus first. So every day, and those of you that are on video can just see this, it's every day I get up and I write a thought for the day, for myself, what I want to accomplish. And then I have a list of things that are priority items for me to get done that day, which merge into what needs to get done this week, which blend in with what needs to get done the next month, which is my dreams and my vision for the next year to 3 years to 5 years. So I do have dreams for 5 years, 3 years, and 1 year. And then I have specific goals and objectives that I'm trying to accomplish in all 8 areas of life. So that focus is really important. And so each and every day, my ritual is to get up, have a cup of coffee, and spend time thinking about what I want to do today. In addition, what I'll do is I'll do things that will I'm not just talking about business goals. I'm talking about things that will move the family forward, move my physical self forward, move my mental self forward, move my spiritual self forward too. So I need to do things in all those areas each and every day to be in balance. So for me, at my age, and I wish I knew that if I was talking to my 20-year-old self, I'd say you've got to be in balance. You've got to strive for that, rather than put all your energies just into business. That's one of the hardest lessons for young people sometimes to learn, is how do you separate the time that you have in the day to make sure you're doing the right things. So that's the focus part. The proximity part is I've got really good people in my life. So first and foremost, family members, but second, I've made an intense effort to reach out to friends that inspire me. So it's really hard for me not to call up a friend and have a conversation with them and not be inspired in some way, because they're simply inspirational people, because they're doing things that are powerful in their lives. And when I listen to that, when I see that, when they talk to me about things like that, it helps me move myself forward as well.
You definitely, in 25 plus years that I've known you, been very focused on controlling your proximity, and been an amazing encouragement to those in your circle when they're going through tough times. What I know is that you're always reaching up, but you always have a hand pulling up as you go. So that's something that I'm really grateful for in you, and a strength and a superpower I see in you is that, to always be empowering people. So outside of all of these high level discussions, what is your ideal life of adventure? Is a word that I hear you use all the time.
That's a very appropriate question, my friend. I just turned 61 yesterday. So I spent a fair amount of my time intentionally on my own yesterday. And I was thinking about that. I was thinking about, what about the next 9 years? And that's I trained myself to think that way. I like to live in the present all the time. But there's got to be times when you think about the next 5 years or the next decade. And I was thinking, what do you really want to do the next 9 years? What do you really want to accomplish? And so I started to think through all those 8 areas of life: financially, the love of my life, the lady I've been married for 25 years, going on 26 years, my 3 children. And I started to dream about each relationship, about each area of my life, and make sure that I was kind of on track. And one of the concepts you and I have talked about a lot is sometimes we dream too small. And so I was checking myself intentionally yesterday about, were my dreams big enough for my relationship with my wife, as an example? How do I make that better? And it's been brilliant, but geez, and it's difficult. It's difficult because it's going so well to think about how you can make it better. But going through that process yesterday, I got really quite excited, because there are things that I can do, I think, to improve that relationship even more and build our bond even closer. So, and I think, in answer to your question, it's the process of being intentional, the process of dreaming, and then the process of taking small steps to achieve the bigger goals.
Yeah, I agree. So well said. I think that something that people really need to know about you is just how you live with passion every day, and to try to really create, you know, great experiences for everybody that you're involved with. And you've basically traveled all over the world. We've traveled and done business all over the world. You focused on being a leader in development for people. You're an educator, a trainer, a mentor. You've engaged thousands of people over your life and helped up to 450 organizations like Nike and Costco, Air Canada, you know, Hilton, at all levels of government, and many nonprofits. So you've just accumulated such a diverse and a wide breadth of knowledge in life, both personally and professionally. What I know is we're partnering here in the Uncommon Truth, and is that that's a real asset for people to be able to become a friend and become in your proximity. That's it. And that's our goal, I think, with the Uncommon Truth. It's not just try to give of ourselves, but we're trying to bring leaders from all over the world into our group's proximity to help empower them so that they can grow and learn and become their best version of themselves. For anything, I can honestly say I'm also doing it for myself.
Well, I remember
I'm focused on growing.
Yeah. Well, if you remember how we met, as an example, one of my very good friends who I was playing hockey with at the time knew you and invited you out to our business group and to the hockey team. And that's how we met. So that's the brilliance of the Uncommon Truth. And that's the brilliance of understanding the concept of bringing people together that have like mind, like character, and want to move and grow, connect and learn together. And that's what we're trying to do. One of the great uncommon truths about life is when you give, you get. So for me, it's never been a question of getting good things in life, but I've just always tried to give of my time, of my skills, of my talents. And as a result, I've been amazingly blessed by the getting part. So in my estimation, I've gotten tenfold in return of what I've given over life. So I feel very grateful that I've been in a position to lead others and to be with others.
Yeah, that's really, really good. That's
But
really,
that's
really
enough
good.
about me. That's way more than about me. I know you. If I've led a very interesting life in my estimation, and with many more exciting things ahead, I'm hopeful for as well. But you, my friend, you also come from a small town. Were an elite athlete growing up, and had a passion to become a policeman. Helped your father was an entrepreneur, and you helped your father out in a business, and then eventually moved and grew that business, became passionate about that business after you hit that major transition of type 2 diabetes. So why don't you, I'm kind of giving away the story here, but you tell me in your own words, and tell our listeners and our viewers in your own words where you're from and what you've done through your life.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Bob. You know, I think the shirt I'm wearing today kind of accepted is sort of an overall attitude I've had my whole life. So I was born in Vancouver. I grew up in the Lower Mainland till I guess it was about grade 7. Grade 7, I moved up to Kamloops and became an interior boy, and did everything up to junior high, and then moved into Penticton where I graduated. So small towns, mid-sized towns, and the larger areas. I'm a BC boy. As soon as I left high school, actually made me go back. In grade 11, I learned a really valuable lesson in life. And that is that life's not always easy. So at 17, I was living on my own in one of those motels in Penticton. It's called the Passmotor Inn. No water in the pool, and trying to figure out how to just make my rent payment while still going to high school, and figuring out life, trying to be an athlete and chase dreams as every young man does. And I had a dream of trying to become a fighter pilot, get into the military. And I really wanted to fly. Long and short, I was accepted. But due to that, I guess some choices and circumstances in my life, I ended up having to work 2 jobs, live on my own, go to school, still try to keep up my athletics and all of that. And my grade point dropped just below the minimum accepted for the officer program in the military. So that was my really first taste of failure and understanding you don't always get what you want in life, and unforeseen things will slap you upside the head. So I immediately graduated, and then I headed down to the coast, and I wasn't really focused on university or going that route. I didn't have a clear, I knew that I had a gift in sales. I still had dreams and athletic ambitions, and I took a job with a company called Annixter and just working in the warehouse. And in my interview, I was 18, 17, 18. And I was bold and I asked for a sales job. And they laughed at me, said, "We got a warehouse job for you." Right? And I said, "Okay." I said, "Okay, I'll take the job." And so I took that job, and it was a union job. And I would just say that I learned a valuable lesson that in that opportunity is that if you seize the opportunity to learn and focus in on doing everything you can to be the best at what you do. Every single month I went in and asked for a sales job. Every single month I was said no to. But I continued to persevere, and I became the lead hand in the warehouse, to the point where they would keep telling me to slow down. You're working too hard. You don't need to do that. Some of them even said I was making them look bad. But the lesson from that was immeasurable. If you want to be extraordinary, you ultimately got to perform at a level that makes everybody look bad. And I don't mean that in a critical way of others, but you have to be willing to do what others won't do if you want to have what others won't have. So I'd been there actually only about 5 months, and I'd progressed and was doing very well. And then I got sick and I went home, and I was really sick. About a week had passed. And I got a phone call from the general manager of the branch, and he just said, "Hey, are you coming back? Are you feeling any better?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm." It was Sunday, and I said, "Yeah, I'll be in tomorrow. I'm back to go." And he said, "Well, do you have a suit?" I went, "What? A suit? I'm going to destroy it in the warehouse." He just laughed at me. He said, "No, you're tenacious. I'm going to give you your sales job." So anyways, that was a little story of triumph that overcame just by putting my head down, doing what others wouldn't do. And I got what others wouldn't got. So I became the youngest salesman in the country and did really well at that. And that really built confidence.
Heath, before you go on, I think it would be what you just described is one of the massive lessons in life for anybody that wants to move anywhere. And that's the ability to be the hardest worker, the intentional ability to be the hardest worker, to take a job at the low end of something and understand that all it's going to take is me showing dedication and commitment and perseverance, and I will soon be at the top of wherever I'm at, and people then are going to notice me. And lots of young people don't understand that. A lot of people don't understand that. They come in and they do the minimum or the mediocre job, and nobody notices them, and they get frustrated. They wonder why. So the question that I would have for you is, where does that come from? Like those are character skills, something you would say within you, but where, looking back on it, where did you learn those lessons?
Well, I definitely have to, give my father a lot of credit for that. He didn't believe in allowances or anything. He believed that you got what you deserve. You need to work for it. And he used to say to me all the time, in almost every effort that you make, perfect is not achievable, but you darn well can be a 3 in the sea of 2s.
What a great quote. What a great quote.
And
That's all you have
that
to be.
didn't mean that's it. And that didn't mean that a 3 was acceptable. The point was, you have to be willing to be better in that circumstance than whatever the average level is.
Mm-hmm.
So the proximity is really proximity and being and working for my dad.
Well, you're also an athlete too, so I'm assuming that you learned some of these skills on the ice. You were playing hockey at the time and other sports too. Did you learn, was sports helpful for you there as well?
I think that there is no better teacher than athletic endeavors, because it forces us to have to face our limitations. It forces us to have to get our ass back up when we got knocked down. It forces us to fail, to be forced to learn if we want to improve, to take risk. Wayne Gretzky, I think, said it best, you got to take the shot. He missed more nets than goals he scored, but we don't remember the thousands or millions of shots he missed. We only remember all the ones that he scored on.
Yeah.
It all came from him taking a risk and being willing to take the shot. So that's a big part, I think, of life is learning to just take the step.
A lot, I would like to say that a lot of my experience has been, I work with youth. My first part of my career was working with young people and teenagers and young adults. And I know one of the things I noticed is people can actually have an experience on the soccer field and have fun playing soccer, but not learn any necessary character lessons from the game of soccer. For them, they're just kicking a ball. They don't have that ability to reflect on the actual skills that soccer can teach. Same thing as when they go to work. They go to work and they work, but there's lessons to be learned. Observing others, participating in the workforce, and there's lots of lessons there if you're observant and if you have that ability to reflect on what's happening, to see the bigger picture. So that's one comment. But the question that I'd have for you is, you said you had a dream about being a fighter pilot. That's a very unusual dream, my friend. You're the only person I've ever met that's articulated that they would like to be a fighter pilot. And you had that at a young age. I meet so many young people today, actually so many people today, not just young people, that still have never had a dream as articulate as that. They're doing a job, they don't like their job very much, and they cannot articulate, I want to be a fighter pilot. It's literally, they can't choose something like that. Or they won't choose it, or they just have never done it. That's part of that purpose. Where did that come from, that fighter pilot thought? And I'd like to hear your thoughts on, because you've had many thoughts like that. That one of your superpowers is there's nothing you can't be. Like I've never ever heard you say you can't do something. And the second thing is, your picture of what you're going to be is always big. It's a big picture. You never shoot small, you always shoot big. So comment on those two things, please.
Well, I guess really it came down to, at a young age, I realized that my future and my reality is up to me, if it's going to be, right? And I have a little phrase that reality equals the dreams I act upon. Ultimately, a dream stays a dream unless we act upon it. It's action that actually begins to cause the rock to roll. And then momentum gets built and things progress and things we never expected happen and come into play for us. And both to prevent it, such as my fighter pilot dream didn't happen. But that really came from a dream of, I wanted to make a difference. I think every person wants to leave a mark. They want a legacy. They want to have an impact on people. And leaders, which actually applies to all of us at different levels, have a passion that comes from deep inside. And it really comes from our human needs. You know, and at that age, I just wanted to be significant. My driving need for significance, because my life had been quite uncertain in my childhood, you know, with parental being divorced when I was 5 to stepmother and blended families. And I can go on with that long story, maybe on another opportunity, but there's so much uncertainty in my life. One thing I knew I could create certainty through is being significant. I think the book Good to Great said it, you know, I might be bastardizing it, but it's the groundhog or go for principle. You got to focus on what you love. You got to work to be the best at it. And then you'll have the potential to monetize it. And that really is the principle that I've tried to live by my whole life. I didn't know it, and I heard it so well through the book when I was much older, but that principle really has been something in my life. I just realized is that if you can dream it, you can do it. You think of anybody who succeeded, any technology we have today, any new item in life comes from a thought, from a dream. And that's what drives me forward, is that I know that if I focus and I surround myself with the people that are already there, it will happen. It's basically the 2 basic laws that I feel in my life have really empowered me. And then I try to be the best I can be, the best example that I can be in it. And that's how I did it. I transitioned from that sales job, Bob, and became their #1 salesperson. I wanted to be an outside salesperson. Well, back in the 80s, there was age discrimination. You weren't allowed to go into that outside field until I was 25, and I wasn't even 20 yet. And that's when I said, you know what? I'm not going to be limited. So I went and said, what do I really want to do? I want to help people. I was a Boy Scout. And I thought, I can be a policeman. I can help people. So I went back to college, went to Douglas College, took criminology, took a whole bunch of other education and that. And I had, again, as soon as I began that process, some amazing circumstances that happened that allowed me to be one of Vancouver's youngest police officers. I was hired at 20 and had almost a 16-year career. I think it was just under 16 years with the Vancouver Police. And I learned so much about life. The most important thing is it's important to try to help people. But we also got to remember, you can't help people that don't want to be helped.
At this time, I'll take a quick segue and just mention that during Heath's time with the police force, he's in Vancouver, so there was a big Chinese. And tell me, you can use the right words here. Tell the story. You tell the story about that part of your career and especially going over to China. What you did when you went over to China. That's fascinating.
Well, one of the things about working in a government agency, such as a police department, is that there's protocols and procedures. And where I was at in the late 80s and early 90s as a young male married police officer, I got married a month after I turned 20, and there wasn't a lot of growth opportunity for some in my certain circumstances. I was basically, due to the hiring practices and the things that were changing in that season of life, I realized that I wasn't going to be going anywhere. I'd be driving a patrol car forever if I didn't make a change. I had to transition to have a skill that would bring value to the department, that would allow me to progress. And I've been an avid martial artist my whole life. And I thought, there's no better way for me to advance my martial arts, for me to advance my career, than understanding the language of the largest population in the world and the fastest growing population in Vancouver, and that was Chinese. So I'd worked very hard as a policeman. I'd never, ever had a sick day or taken any of my overtime in pay. I took it in time. And I basically decided to go to university in Beijing, to the Beijing Language and Cultural University, BCLU. And I went and studied Mandarin. And that decision changed my life forever within the police department. I came back and was able to get involved in, helping run Chinatown and other types of endeavors within the department. And it really helped enhance my career. And it really came back to that simple thing. What do I need to do that others won't do that will help me bring value so that I can progress and be a 3 in a sea of 2s? And that's just been it. What can I do that's going to really help me help others easier and better? That's the one thing principle, right? What is the thing I can do right now that's going to make everything else easier or unnecessary in the pursuit of my goal?
And let me just say at this time again for our listeners and viewers is that what Heath did there is unusually intuitive, where he was reflective of some of the major skills he had. He was reflective of where he wanted to go, and so he leveraged some of the skills and some of the talents that he had, martial arts as an example, and said, how can I, if I do this, put this skill with that skill, and then invest this time in the opportunity in Beijing. And let me tell the listener to go over to China and not
1992.
Just out of communism, and then go to school there. And you were only there 3 months, is that correct?
Yeah, the first program I took, and the first time I went, was for a 3-month program. That's the length of time that I could get a leave of absence from the department for.
But when I met you, a little bit late, quite a bit later, not that much later, you were you described yourself as being 80% competent in Mandarin, and I was astounded at that figure. Your accent seems really quite terrific, even to this day.
Go back to back to proximity. 我非常感谢你给我这个说话，谢谢你。What I think is that as you go to a place, it's always about proximity. And I realized I took some courses locally and had a tutor, and the tutor said, Heath, you have a gift for languages, but you have to get yourself into the proximity of authentic speakers, because language is about hearing, not speaking. So that's when I went, and that was transformational. It really was a great adventure for me. And I did it extreme, like I do most things, it seems. And I went and I actually lived in the Chinese dorms at the university. I didn't live in the expat foreigner dorms. And it was literally just a concrete room with a cot and a desk. Right. And that's a whole story in itself. But back in 1992, there's so much change going on. It's a totally different world, and it's hard to explain in just a short chat here, but I literally studied 11 hours a day, and I wouldn't be around anybody who spoke English. I gave myself literally just a couple hours a day at dinner where I would speak English with some of the expatriate friends that I'd made. Yeah, otherwise I would still spend time with them, but it had to be in Chinese.
Yeah.
And that was the mistake. And the key for it was that commitments and the rituals I put in place that it forced me, I had no option but to learn the language, because if I just wanted to eat, if I wanted to, I had to learn to speak. So it was a great adventure, and it definitely had a big impact on me as a person, and doing that. And we got to be willing to sacrifice. I was away from my wife and my 1-year-old son for that period of time, and it was a hard time at that time, but it definitely was worth it in what it enabled me to do and grow, both in my policing career, and then after, as you have experienced, Bob, in my professional career. It opened so many doors in the different businesses and the opportunities, the consulting that I've done, to go speaking at the World Fair in 2010. I could go on for a lot, but being willing to do what others won't do is a key element of success.
Well said, very well said. So 16 years with the police force, but that was stressful time, because I know that you're an achiever, and you took on some of the toughest roles in the police force, and that time came to an end. Tell the story about the time coming to an end, and how you got involved in business.
Well, policeman, one of the benefits of being a policeman is you do get 4 days off. So I did do some sales on the side for my father and helped him with his promotional marketing company, selling hats and pens and widgets, in that aspect, as he'd started a new business. And combining that with the job on its own, I overdid it. And the stress led to me becoming a type 1 diabetic. I'm not a big, I think stress, they called it a stress-induced autoimmune deficiency that caused me, because I was fit as a fiddle. And, I could go through a long array to prove that, but I'm 51 and I'm still staying in shape. So you can imagine what I was like at 25. So I really believe there's nothing I couldn't do, but within a month, I literally lost 40 pounds, went from 190 to under 150. I thought I was going to be gone, and they didn't know what it was. In Canada, they misdiagnosed me. They don't know why, because they just tested me not even 6 months ago, or 6 months previous to me becoming a diabetic. And with the police, you have to go in, and I took a series of vaccinations. And the doctors afterwards felt that the combination of the vaccinations and the stress caused this autoimmune deficiency, and I ended up with type 1 diabetes, complete pancreas failure from the islet cells. They had all died, and ended up in a coma, went blind, had all the typical symptoms and the organ failures. And then I was fortunate enough that I was able to fully recover from that. And I realized at that point in time that this job is a critical job, but it's still a job. I was just a badge number, and that I needed to make sure I had a back door for my life, so that I could extend my life expectancy as the shift work and the lifestyle. And I made a good haul of trying to keep doing it as a type 1, and there's many type 1s that do it. And it's wasn't the department's issue, it was my issue, that whatever I do, I like to do full out, and I needed to transition to a healthier lifestyle, to create better rituals in my life that would allow me to be healthy, both in my body and my soul and spirit. And that's when I made the transition. But it took a lot of help from you and our core group of friends to let me get over my fear of leaving such a secure job and taking the big leap into entrepreneurship, which means, entrepreneur means enter poor. And to pull everything, my pension, the works, and just invested in me and believe in myself to start a business. So that was a great adventure. And thanks to you and a good, solid group of friends, I was blessed with a business career that has truly taken me all over the world, from Asia, China, to Europe, I've been almost on every continent, Africa. and been able to grow and develop different businesses of my own and help others develop them, and to create opportunities and seeing the opportunities that were available for them, and helping them achieve it through creating great messaging and great rituals that would create relationships with people. So how does that bring us to the uncommon truth? Well, through my journey from basically early 2000s, I was able and blessed with the opportunity to work with a lot of different companies. I had owned a company called Greystone, and I grew that from 5 people and about $500,000 a year in annual sales to over 65 people, offices in Toronto and Vancouver, and the top 5 promotional ad agency at the time in the mid 2000s. When I sold it in 2008 to a couple partners that I had acquired in the process of growing the company, and they bought me out, and I moved on to another transition in business into real estate and development with my brother. Allowed me to do other businesses and aviation, and then into the opportunity to actually help other people through consulting. So I have a real passion for, really, all my businesses have been focused on trying to help other people achieve their goals. That's a key that I've learned.
Heath, there's not a bad old client list. Royal Bank of Canada, Van City, Starbucks, TELUS, Volvo, Mack Trucks, Caterpillar, OK Tire, Chinook Helicopters. Not a bad little list there, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was a real blessing and a privilege to be able to work with all these great people and do that. And then, like you, I went through a significant life transition, and my marriage of 30 years ended, and that's been a journey over the last 4 years, I guess, of transitioning into a new life, and it's definitely not a path I recommend for anybody, and it really digs down deep into who you are. And who am I really, and what am I doing here? Reevaluating my values, my principles, and everything, and realizing that it takes a lot of grace to be able to start over and to move forward, and at the same time, try to really empower my ex-wife to be able to live in a good place as well. So that's what led us right to the uncommon truth. Is I took about 2 years and just went on a journey of self-discovery, of reinventing myself and trying to figure out and answer some really important questions. And those key questions, redefining our identity. Who am I? Where am I from? Purpose, what are my gifts and what am I doing here? Where do I want to go? Which led into the whole idea of, I can plan this, I can create it, I've done it before. But you can lose yourself, and we all do, and we all have failures, but to pick yourself back up, even when it's so deep into challenging who you thought you were as a man or as a woman. And that's the journey I'm on now. And the uncommon truth is about not only pursuing my own purpose and living the principles of performance, but I want to guide and help people pursue their purpose, their unique purpose that God's given them, and really to understand the rituals and those principles that will provide predictable performance. Just taking my 51 years of life and trying to bring value and help other people. And that's what I think really is what we're aligned so much, Bob, and what we really are trying to do is go seek out those people that are living an ideal form of life.
Well, we lived it ourselves. We saw it firsthand when we were very young. You were just starting your business with Greystone and driving that business to the success it had. And I was starting my leadership development business as well. We were intentionally reached out to the friends that we had who were entrepreneurs, brought them together, and formed an accountability group that we would meet with once a month and go on retreats with annually, and to ask the hard questions of ourselves. How do we become better business people? How do we become better fathers? How do we become better husbands? How do we become better physical people? How do we manage our money better? And we would set goals and develop business plans together. And the brilliant thing about that group, and as in the Uncommon Truth, is we bring people together to hold each other accountable in a mature way, which is to say, when we say something, then we're expected to do it. If you're not going to do it, we don't say it. But as soon as we say we're going to do it, then we're going to do it. Then you have your friends around you, your associates around you that support you in achieving those goals. And so those were times that really helped. I'll speak for both of us. Really helped us both in our personal lives and in our business lives as we went forward. So it was a real honor and a privilege to be part of that. And I would say that those are some of my closest friends today, yourself included. We just continue to be friends, continue to get closer together. Those rich, deep, meaningful relationships were built on the foundation of trust, mutual respect, and us just working together to be better people and pursue our purposes and pursue our passions.
Yeah. You know, I think that really is a key element. We need to do what we love with people we love. And doing what we say and saying what we do, I think, is the goal of most people. To learn the process of becoming congruent, true to who we are, and that others will also see us as we are. And that's what congruency really is when who we think we are and who we live as and what other people see us as are aligned. So I think for us, at the as we're now through a couple months of creating content and driving it, we really want to focus on education, training, and mentorship, in helping people pursue their purpose and live by the principles of performance. So what is this ideal form of life that we're talking about, Bob? I maybe explain a little bit about the things that are going to come with the Uncommon Truth, our form of life program, and a few of the other things we have coming down the pipe.
Well, we're really excited about this, Bud, is that, over the years with my leadership development company, and you over the last 2.5+ years have really explored what learning is required and in what order for a person to identify their skills, abilities, talents, and gifts and decide what they're going to pursue. So we've got a program, a 3-course program coming out that takes a look at a person's identity and helps them build their identity so they have a clear understanding of what the reality is and what their skills, gifts, and talents are. And then leads into course number 2, which is purpose. Like, why are they here? What could they be doing? And how do you use your skills, gifts, talents, and move it into a purposeful activities that really create passion and makes your life very, very enjoyable, where you get up each and every morning, can hardly wait to get into the day. And the last thing is the last course of that 3-course is the plan. So taking them through the plan step by step, supporting them with that, the planning process, and then connecting them with a group of like-minded people so they can be held accountable, but they can also find the support and friendship and associates that will help them fill in the blanks. So if you don't know anything about sales or marketing and you want to start a business, we want to make sure that you're in a group where there's people with sales and marketing skills, as an example. So got lots of opportunity with the Ideal Form of Life program with those 3 courses: identity, purpose, and plan coming forward.
Yeah, that's exciting. I think another aspect that I'd like to add to our Ideal Form of Life that's going to transition and really lead into our energy health management program. And we've are partnering with Dr. Sean Richardson on that, who's a high performance psychologist and an expert in human energy management. And that's going to be bringing us and allowing us to work through transition and change in our lives at different times, to be able to identify where we are at, because life is full of seasons, short ones, good ones. Life is always passing. It's never permanent. When it's really, really good and you're on the mountaintop, it's not permanent. And when we're in the bottom and having a real struggle, it's not permanent. We need to not make permanent decisions for temporary circumstances. And that really helps us on what actions and what steps we need to take to be able to transition. Hypothetically, we can be depressed and in a burnout state in life. How do we move from burnout into the next stage of being able to identify and re-energize our body and identify where the stressors are coming from? So that is something we're really excited about, and providing people with the tools to be able to really be aware of where they are, where they want to go, and how to make the dash in between them.
Totally, bud. That energy health program is really going to be transformational for so many people. There's a quote. There's an old quote. Maybe you recognize this. It's one thought can change your destiny, and that's what these courses are about. Is giving the people the knowledge that helps them reposition themselves to move forward in all 8 areas of their lives. So it's so exciting. That over the years we've learned what it takes, and those thoughts and pieces of the puzzle, if you will, that allow people to say, hey, that thought fundamentally transformed my life, just that one thought. And so I'm very excited about those courses. Those courses, by the way, will be available online, where people can just click on it and view it and go through the course themselves. And they'll also be live streamed at certain times. And some of them will be run face-to-face too here in British Columbia. So 3 ways for people to access that data and that knowledge, bring people together.
Yeah, well, thanks for providing that information. I think it's really important that this is about transformation. And that is done through the changing and the renewing of our mind. And every dream is just a thought. It's energy. It's back to focusing on that target. And you'd asked me earlier about how important is that focus in my life. Well, I do dream big, because ultimately my goal is to dream big enough that I can help you, Bob, and all the people that I end up touching, that their dreams can be fulfilled through it. So it doesn't matter where you're at. Whether you're a stay-at-home mom, one of the most important jobs in the world, you have the ability to transform and lead your children, to help them understand that your reality is your dreams acted upon. Chance favors a prepared mind. We need to plan, we need to persevere, and at the end of the day, we will get to benefit and progress, right? Our life really is about progress. And I liked what Tony Robbins said once, is that quite often we think of success as money, but ultimately success is whatever we say it is. So the only real failure in life is having success without fulfillment. And fulfillment is directly related to how we progress. We never arrive. This is a journey of constant, never-ending improvement. So together, what I'm hoping is that you would journey with Bob and I and a whole host of leaders that we are going to bring into your proximity to help you grow, so that you have more that you can give, and ultimately allow you to get to live your ideal form of life. This has nothing to do about us. It's us helping you see, learn, and be around those that have the principles in play that allow them to perform. So I'm really grateful, Bob, for the opportunity for us, to be able to share a little bit of our story, and we'll share more as we go throughout the episodes. But what I really am hoping is that, all of you would just see that together we can. And that's what Bob is saying. Nobody is ever self-made. They have to make a choice. Yes. They have to take the action. Yes. But it comes back to who you hang with is what you're going to become. Choose that really well. And do not let your focus waver from what dream you want to achieve. You will progress. So I really want to thank you, Bob. I want to thank all of you for watching us as we shared the uncommon truth and update and where we're going. I'd like you to check us out at www.theuncommontruth.life and visit us at YouTube, Facebook, and all the audio apps out there under The Uncommon Truth. Hit that subscribe button. Send us your comments and your feedback. We're really looking forward to journeying with you as we seek the uncommon truth. Until next time, God bless.
Thanks, Heath.
Thank you so much, Bob.